Welcome to the AL.com Alabama Postgame show. My name is Wes Sinor. I'm joined by our sports editor, John Talty. John is still at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Looks like he's maybe near a bathroom or something. I don't know what's going on back there where you're at.
The lovely bowels of Bryant-Denny Stadium here.
So pretty crazy game tonight. I know this was a game that both teams and both fans kind of had on their schedule for a long time. Obviously, it was hyped up a lot this offseason, spurred on by the comments between Jimbo and Saban. Do you think it lived up to the hype tonight even after Texas A&M dropped a couple games coming into it?
I actually think it more than did, because I think that we had lost so much of the luster around this game that Alabama was a 24-point favorite in this game. There was a lot of expectations for Alabama to blow this team out. And I think with Bryce Young not playing in this game, it really evened things up between these two teams. And, it's hard to get much better. Now, the game was sloppy. There were turnovers, there were penalties, all that. But when a game ends on a last-second play to decide winner or loser, it's hard to beat that. And so even though it wasn't maybe as exciting as people thought it was going to be, I think just from what we'd been talking about in recent weeks, this game was a lot more interesting and a lot closer than I think any of us thought.
Yeah, if you could just kind of break down a little that final drive for Texas A&M, and obviously they had a chance to win it there within the 5-yard line. Pretty crazy that they were in that position, despite how well at times Alabama did play.
What's interesting, I was just talking to Terry and Arnold, who made that play at the end to save the game for Alabama, and he at least claims that he could read Jimbo Fisher's lips, and Jimbo was saying Evan, meaning he was going to go to Evan Stewart. Now, that's Terrian's story, and I think it's a fascinating one, but he certainly was expecting them to go to Evan Stewart on that last play. Of course, they tried to, and it didn't work out. So Terrian Arnold makes a huge play, had a really strong game overall. Evan Stewart was their top guy, and they were going after him a little bit, but he played well. And, I think again, there's going to be a lot to clean up. I'm sure Nick Saban will have plenty of things to go over in their film review over the struggles, pass interference. That play right beforehand, game would have been over otherwise. But, to kind of stand up and be able to deliver a win, get that stop at the last second is huge. And, the defense really had to carry this team tonight. The offense was not getting it done for a good chunk of the game. And, defense had to stand up, and they did. And I think it says a lot about the talent that they have on this team.
What do you think about Jalen Milroe's performance tonight? Obviously, Bryce Young dressed out, was warming up pregame, but didn't actually see the field. Milroe tonight, I believe, was 12 of 19 for 111 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he also had 3 turnovers where he lost 2 fumbles and threw, an interception. So how do you kind of grade Milroe tonight?
Yeah, up and down game. I don't know. I've got some tractors going by me, so I don't know if you can hear that in the background. But obviously the turnovers are not a positive. Those 2 fumbles, one of them was particularly really careless. He just was not holding the ball the way he needed to and ends up fumbling the ball. That's obviously a one that, Nick's not going to be happy about. The interception wasn't great. It was kind of an arm punt in some regard. But, if you're Nick Saban, you look at the guys for a long time. Nick Saban, one of the biggest things that he valued was just not making turnovers, right? And that you had all those game manager quarterbacks. They've since evolved guys who are a lot more exciting and more aggressive. But that's turnovers are just something that Nick Saban's never going to be okay with. So when your backup quarterback has 3 turnovers, that's not good, and that's what kept Texas A&M in this game. If he doesn't have those turnovers, this easily could have been at least a double-digit win for Alabama, because every time they turn over the ball, A&M was aggressive and they were able to capitalize it. The vast majority of their points, I think 17 out of their 20 points came off turnovers. So, if you don't have those bad turnovers, the game's a lot different.
Yeah, and it's not often that you can turn the ball over 4 times and still manage to win the game and only have 1 takeaway. But Jahmyr Gibbs obviously had another big game building off that performance last week at Arkansas. I think he went for 154 yards. Alabama rushed for 288 total yards. So I think they held Texas A&M to 70 rushing yards. So just ground game, Alabama obviously, has the edge there. What do you think of Alabama's defense tonight? Will Anderson seemed to be all over the place from what I can tell.
Yeah, I think Will Anderson had 8 quarterback hurries in this game, which is huge. Even if he wasn't getting the sacks, he was able to get pressure on the quarterback, which is really important. And yeah, I mean, I think again, as I said earlier, the offense was not particularly effective tonight. I'm sure there are lots of Alabama fans who are not big fans of Bill O'Brien tonight. We're not super excited about what they were seeing, and so that just meant that the defense had to deliver. And poor Haynes King, the Texas A&M quarterback, I mean, he was getting hammered all night. He had guys in his face. He was taking big hits. I mean, the defense was swarming him. Dallas Turner, they had a bunch of guys who played really well in addition to Will Anderson. But Will was great, and that's just such a huge weapon that Alabama has. To be able to have that guy who make an impact every single game, and he did throughout tonight against A&M.
Last question before I let you go, Talty. Obviously, a big game next week. It's officially, Tennessee hate week for Alabama fans. This is the biggest one in recent memory. Tennessee's going to, this is going to be a top 10 game. Tennessee beat up LSU pretty bad today. What are your early thoughts on this matchup, and do you think Alabama can win without Bryce Young?
So the thing I was going to say is that no, I don't think Alabama can win without Bryce Young. I mean, that's such an efficient and really explosive offense. I mean, Hendon Hooker, I think, is one of the best players in the country. He's probably one of the early leaders for the Heisman in terms of guys in the SEC. And I mean, he's just been playing terrific. And so I think that it's going to be difficult to stop that guy, and they're going to have to put up points. I don't think certainly the performance we saw tonight is not going to get it done at Tennessee next week. And even Nick Saban said himself, basically, like, if we play like we did tonight on the road, we're not winning the game. And so you saw tonight, listen, we already knew he was the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. I think people understand Bryce Young pretty good. But I think tonight was a good illustration of just how important this guy is to the offense, given some of the limitations they have. The wide receivers are not as good as they were in the past. There's just not those real big, explosive guys outside of Jahmyr Gibbs, which just means you just need Bryce Young even more. And so Jalen Milroe, I think, would have some challenges next week. And, you don't want to be too negative, but I think if he has to start and Bryce can't play, Alabama could be in trouble next week for sure.
Well, we'll have full coverage of that game, and obviously much more to come from Alabama's win over Texas A&M tonight. John, I appreciate your time, and thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Alabama Postgame Show, brought to you by Medical Properties Trust.
Medical Properties Trust, at the very heart